So looks like we're good for go. So I'm here with FACRA, Family and Children's Rights Australia, and we're trying to raise awareness of what's going on in the family court. I wish I could have come here on better circumstances, but our children are being abused and neglected, and our Australian government supporting it. So we've been trying to raise awareness. I want to dispel any sort of myths that we have about us. We're not men's rights activists, we're human rights activists. We're having children alienated from parents. We're supporting both parents, male and female. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to get going. If we can just have a thumbs up and let me know that you can hear me clearly, and we'll get going. We absolutely do not support domestic violence in any way, shape or form. Let's get that thing clear. We actually were saying that we should be supporting both genders in domestic violence. The Australian Bureau of Statistics states that 1 in 3 victims of domestic violence is a man, yet we have 0 support services in Australia for this. We have no behavioural courses for women, for violent women, sorry. So we're pretty much saying, you know, as much as they're trying to say it's not gendered, we're pretty much saying it is gendered, and that's exactly what it is. So as we're running down the freeway, we're going to see our banners showing and trying to raise awareness. I've already had feedback now that we're getting really good support. People are beeping their horns, the trains are beeping their horns, as it did last week. As we go through the banners, I'll explain what we mean by the banners, because there's going to be people curious joining this group and they just want to know what's going on, and we'll explain it as we go. Because like everyone else, when I first started this and when I first seen people and you think, wow, there's normally not smoke without fire, there really is. There really is. We've had Justice David Collier come out and state that he reckons that restraining orders are more often not being used as a weapon rather than a shield. Which you know, this is coming from a from a judge. You know, how can we ignore stats like that? We've had a single expert witness just last month come out, a long-term single expert witness over in New South Wales, come out and say that he reckons that 90% of allegations are untrue. So how can we ignore that as well? All the signs and facts are there. If you go to the aifs.gov.au, you'll see some statistics there. Obviously it's a government-run website, and it's saying there that 82% of allegations of spousal violence in the general population of the family court cases were not supported with any form of corroborative evidence, and while 14% of allegations in that group were supported by one piece of corroborative evidence. You know, we understand that it's very difficult to remove domestic violence, but when you create a system there to be abused, it is most definitely going to be abused. So as we're running down the freeway, I've obviously got a lot of dialogue. I'm a bit nervous, it's the first time I've done it, so I apologise if I ramble a little bit, but I'll try and make it interesting. I'll even throw a bit of humour in there. I was attacked by a man with a pint of milk and a lump of cheese last week. How dare he? How'd you like that? No thumbs up, oh dear. Thanks, Trav. So yeah, we need people to start supporting FACRA. We really need you to like and join our page and show your support for us. We desperately need volunteers. Oh, we're coming up to the first sign. By the way, Epstein didn't kill himself. Here we are, go boys! Stop using VROs as weapons. This was these VROs are being used as weapons. Section 44A of the Restraining Order Act says the normal rules of evidence do not apply to restraining orders, and it specifically goes on to mention hearsay is allowed. How is that in any way, shape or form fair? The threshold for the domestic violence has been lowered to so low that the fact that a look could be considered domestic violence. Asking for a divorce can be considered domestic violence. Not speaking to your partner can be considered domestic violence. If you don't believe me, go read the Restraining Order Act. Go read the Domestic Violence Act. Go listen to people like Zimmerman, Professor Zimmerman. He was on the Law Reform Council. Watch his YouTube videos and what he speaks about it, on how easy it is to get a restraining order. And remember, the children are thrown on that restraining order straight away without any evidence whatsoever. Here we're coming up to our second banner. "50-50 shared care from the start." This is actually the recommendation of the family court, that 50-50 shared care should be from the get-go. Yet it rarely ever gets practiced. We see a lot of domestic violence websites quote facts like there's only a very small percentage of fathers actually alienated from their children completely. If it's that low, why are we punishing all kids? Why are we traumatizing the other 99% for a very, very small fraction of men who are that abusive that they didn't get to see their kids? We've seen, I read a lot, I've volunteered with children for 20 years, and I read a lot of psychology in regards to children, and I can tell you the experts all say the more attachments in a child's life, the better. Even the attachment theory that Bowlby and Aintree wrote, that the courts rely on, even states there on numerous occasions that the more attachments a child has, the better. I don't know where they're getting it from in that attachment theory, because the closest I ever seen in that attachment theory was children in daycare showed signs of separation anxiety when taken to daycare. That's because there was no attachments there, not even a secondary attachment. 50-50 shared care, all the studies say that 50-50 is the best way to go. So we're coming up to our third banner. Here we are. Give them a good beep. It is actually a human right that children have rights to access to both parents. It's actually in the UN human rights. If you have a look at it, it's plain and simple. The general population can understand this. They absolutely understand that it's a child's right to know both parents. What we have in a lot of cases is where fathers get every second weekend. If you read the works such as Dr. Richard Walshack, also states in there that they have a phrase in psychology with children called Disneyland Daddy. So when that father gets every second weekend, as a father, would you really want to punish your children in that one weekend out of two that you get your child? Are you going to make a massive effort to take that child out, take them places? So these children then go to their fathers in this artificial environment where they think that it's all rainbows and lollipops, and it makes them resent the other parent that they have the majority amount of time with. This then again creates conflict between the parents. It's clearly stated there in Richard Walshack's work. There was a study conducted in America. The largest study of brainwashed children was published by the American Bar Association. A husband and wife research team, Dr. Stanley Clawell and Dr. Brian Riven, found increasing the child's contact with the alienated parent was the most effective way to reverse alienation. Here is what they reported. Of approximately the 400 cases we have seen where the courts have increased contact with the target parent, and half of these were at the objection of the children themselves, there has been a positive change in 90% of the relationships between the child and the target parent, including the elimination or reduction of many social and psychological, educational and physical problems that the child presented prior to the modification. With things like that, with studies like that, that is a conclusive study. 400 children, that's a lot of children, and a 90% effectiveness. Why can't we wake up and see that is absolutely the best way to save these children. Dr. Walshak's got 2 clinics, one in Canada and one in America, I believe, and they're having profound results with these children who have been brainwashed and alienated from their parents. Back to the Restraining Order Act. If you look in Section 5 of the Restraining Order, it's like a sheet that they give on the back of restraining orders, which has all of the information of what the person bound by the restraining order is meant to do. If you look at this, if the person protected encourages or causes a breach of the order, if the person protected initiates or encourages the person bound to breach the order, or if the protected person by their action causes or attempts to cause the person bound to breach the order, they will not commit an offence. The person who is bound by the order will be committing an offence. So they could sit there and literally punish a man. We've heard this from the police so many times, that the police are having to arrest guys that are responding to text messages. Ben Cousins was another famous guy there. Ben Cousins replied to a text message and he got arrested and he got jailed for it, for replying to a text message. These restraining orders are meant to be protecting people that are scared. How is replying to a text message pointing out that it's fearful? This has to change. This absolutely has to change. These guys then receive criminal records. Criminal records can destroy someone's life. It can cost you jobs, it can stop you travelling. Yes, Trav, the weather is beautiful here in Perth. It's a beautiful city. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I absolutely love this place. And no, I shan't be giving any traffic advice. Apart from Ricaro, might be the only person in Perth that can drive. Another bit of humour for you. Bit of comedy first thing in the morning. Again, guys, we really need to get sharing and liking FACRA. We need to get boots on the ground. This is the only way we're going to change this. FACRA are really leading the charge. I've been doing this for 3 years now. I've only been involved with FACRA for 6 to 8 months, I think, and I've never seen an organisation like it. They really are putting boots on the ground. They really are. They're raising awareness everywhere. We're gaining numbers every day. We really need to start supporting these guys. We really need to do it. I see a lot of guys also writing on the Facebook pages. They'll do a rant. That rant could be easily translated into a letter and sent to your local politicians and to your upper house. You know, these are all these figures are going to become essential when we get the Royal Commission, and I feel that we will get the Royal Commission. And with this Royal Commission as well, everyone knows that we've got the parliamentary inquiry coming up. Submissions for that close on the 18th of December. It is vital, guys, that we get this in. We must get these submissions in. Sorry, I don't mean to genderize it. I don't mean to keep saying guys. I mean both. And we know that some mothers are getting the exact same treatment. It's pretty much a race who gets that restraining order first nowadays, and people are starting to smarten up to it. And children are just getting traumatized in the process. But guys, we must get these submissions in. This is your chance to have your voice. This is your chance to be heard. We must get them in. Again, I'd just like to add, Epstein didn't kill himself. Also, you can see on other government websites, another failing that we're having here is we're getting a lot of domestic violence groups only recognising male violence against women. When we're showing studies that there's a huge amount of domestic violence, especially if you actually tally up the ratio amongst same-sex women, and these domestic violence organisations are not recognising these women. They're failing these women that are suffering domestic violence at the hands of other women. If we didn't take such a gendered approach to domestic violence, we could save a lot of people. We could save a lot of children. We're now looking at, though, and I hate bringing it back to gender, but we're now looking at the stats for filicide, child murder. You know, there is always a huge portion of mothers that kill their children. I think this year, if I remember the stats rightly, it's 17 children have killed this year, 14 by their mothers. you know, if we didn't take a gendered approach to domestic violence, how many of them children could we have saved if we just recognised that maybe, just maybe, the mother wasn't the right choice in that occasion? We really are failing our children, especially with the models as well of domestic violence, of the behavioural courses. If we offered behavioural courses for violent women when we recognised that women were violent, how many marriages could have been saved? How many children's lives would not have been destroyed? Again, we have to start waking up to this. This is why we must start liking and sharing FACRA. You know, this is not just men that it affects. It's the grandmothers, it's the sisters, it's the cousins that don't get to see their children. Again, even if you think that this doesn't affect you, if you've got a son, just remember, with all the information and evidence I've just given you, your son could one day become a victim of false allegations. He could lose everything. He could lose his children. You could be alienated from your grandkids. You know, even if it's your nephew. We have to think about that. This is not just affecting men. We've got 6 men suiciding a day in Australia now, and we've got 82 a day calling the ambulance for help because they're wanting to kill themselves, or they've attempted to kill themselves. Yet this just gets ignored. Section 121 of the Family Court Act, it's the secrecy law. None of this can be published. None of them can be published that they were actually in family court proceedings, and the government refuses to do any studies on this. Is it not obvious that it seems that they're trying to hide something? Because that is the feeling I'm getting, that they're trying to bury this. I'll give you another joke, because I'm running out of dialogue. What's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but Abu Dhabi do. Oh, there we go. Value for money. Nah, no likes. Oh well. We're also struggling with the lawyers as well. Another thing that I'd like to point out is if you read the Legal Professions Act, if you go on the Law Society's website, you'll see the rules, the cans and can't do's of lawyers. There's a book called the Lawyer's Professional Responsibility, 6th edition, and that there goes through, it's like the Bible for lawyers, and it goes through and explains what lawyers can and can't do, and then it also associates the applicable rules, laws, and case law that's associated with it. So what a lot of people don't know, that where reasonably practical, a lawyer must check that all the information that he puts in an affidavit, or she puts in an affidavit, is true and correct. They must be critical of their client's narrative. Specifically states that they're not a hired gun. They must advise their clients against perjury. If a false affidavit has gone in, I think it was 7.9 on the WA Law Society's website, that the affidavit must be retracted, and an explanation put in why that affidavit was wrong. So we report these lawyers to the LPCC, and the LPCC just doesn't seem to act. All they seem is to protect lawyers. We have to hound them just to hand it from the Rapids response team over to the investigations team, and then it nearly always materialises into nothing, which is it's just sad, because they're an organisation that's meant to be protecting the public from these lawyers. And they're just getting away with it, and it's we have to change this as well. We have to recognise this. I've supported parents and still will continue to support parents put their complaints into the LPCC. I've also supported them to the police as well. We've written directly to Michelle Roberts, the police minister. We've written directly to Chris Dawson, the police commissioner. And we're just getting rejected all the time. And remember, when we talk about perjury and we say, yes, domestic violence is hard to prove, perjury make the common misconception that perjury is he said, she said, or lack of evidence. That is completely untrue. Perjury is where you knowingly lie. You prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you have knowingly lied under oath. So that's a high threshold. If someone is knowingly lying under oath, we can safely say they're doing this to either, one, punish the other parent, or alienate the children. There was a landmark case well, sorry, it wasn't a case, sorry, it was a decision by Judge Temdi Flatley. He said that it is more important for a family court to be informed more than any other court when the safety of a child is at risk, or the welfare of a child is at risk. Yet we seem to have gone back. Julia Gillard removed the Family Court Act section 117AB, I think it was, where you could claim costs for false accusations of domestic violence. So we have no penalties for perjury in family court. So if I do a quick run through of how easy it is, and this is pretty much the handbook of what happens in family court, is we get a very low threshold for domestic violence. We get restraining orders that are obtainable on hearsay and without any evidence. We then remove perjury from the family law, so there's no consequences for lying. We've demonstrated that we've written to the police on numerous occasions, and the police won't act for us. So basically, you're giving people a free run on doing whatever they want in the family court and saying whatever they want, and there is no consequences for that. So it's kind of sad, and now I hope that people that are just switching on to our channel just because they're curious, I hope that people realise that why we're getting so frustrated. It is happening to women as well. I'm not saying it's just men, but it is predominantly men that it's happening to. And this needs to change. We need to start holding people accountable for lies. And to be honest, the general public, from who we speak to, support us in this as well. The police are absolutely fed up of the restraining orders. They see that they're so easy to get. They see that that they're sick of arresting people who really shouldn't be arrested just for replying to a text message, or getting invited down to the park to see their kids and having been set up and the police waiting there for them. It's really sad when that happens. So we're approaching another footbridge with one of our other signs on it. I hope we've got a few watchers on the East Coast as well. Hopefully we can start doing this all over and raising awareness. Again, we need to get on this FACRA page. We need the likes and shares. We need the support. We need the volunteers. It's the only way we're going to change things, guys. I'm really not comfortable doing this. This is way out of my comfort zone and doing a live video, but I'm doing it because I care about my country. I care about my child's future. And I want to see positive change. Anyone who knows me, like I've said, I've volunteered with children for over 20 years. I would never ever support any legislation that puts any child at risk. I completely, this is putting children at risk, the current situation that we have. The backlog in courts as well, people are waiting nearly a year to get to trial, and then we know the fun and games that can go on there when one party doesn't turn up or doesn't file an affidavit, and yeah, it just drags out and it's just clogging up the system. So as we're getting closer, you can see our next banner: fathers are not second-class citizens. In the famous words of Judge Judy, if I remember rightly, we're certainly not. If you look at the input that fathers have with children's lives, like I said, I've volunteered with children for 20 years. And I can tell you, man, I've seen it firsthand, the catastrophic effects it has when you take a parent, whether it be the mother or father, out of a child's life. They are biologically programmed to love their parents, and we have to stop taking these parents out of their lives. We have to stop reducing the time with these parents. So again, I can't stress enough how much we need you to get on the FACRA page, like and share it with your friends. We know family court's like a cancer. We all know someone who's going through it. And it's blatant as well. I think the general public know what's going on. It's just accepted. It's like the rich, with their taxes, and we know it's in the Cayman Islands, we know it's in the Swiss bank accounts, but it's just accepted. We make jokes about it at comedy acts. Eddie Murphy, I think everyone remembers Eddie Murphy Raw when he jokes on about the divorce, and how a man would get screwed in a divorce. I've seen Joe Rogan do it. It's common knowledge. It's common knowledge, and it needs to stop. We're not second-class citizens. Again, must remind people that the submissions, we have to get these submissions in. 18th of December is the closing date. FACRA are supporting people getting these submissions in. If you go on our page, you'll see that they are holding group sessions for people to go down and do their submissions. It would be absolutely awesome, you know, if you guys can get down there, meet the team. You can see what we're all about. Again, you know, like I've constantly reiterated, these sorts of organisations seem to paint, you know, organisations like FACRA as you know, men's rights activists and, you know, pro domestic violence. We are absolutely, completely, 100% against domestic violence. We don't want you in our group if you're that sort of person, you know, male or female. So yeah, I must reiterate that we're not men's rights, you know. As the FACRA stands for, Family and Children's Rights Australia. We're here for families. We're trying to keep them together. If you go on our website and you see the you know, the core values of what we stand for, it's all about the children. It's all about keeping the family together. So yeah, we do not support domestic violence in any shape or form. We've just got a new website going as well. Thanks to one of our lovely volunteers, and that's going really well. I'd definitely recommend checking it out. You can follow the links on the Facebook page to get you there. Again, I cannot stress enough that how much we need to like and share our Facebook page. You know, we need the support, we need the numbers, we need the volunteers, and we're growing. It's exciting because we're growing. Daily we're growing, absolutely, and we're getting. We turned up this morning, and the amount of volunteers we've got this morning, it's brilliant. It's beautiful to watch. I hope we can start inspiring everyone. I hope we can get action on the East Coast as well. As FACRA grows, it's going to be brilliant. You know, we've got good leadership here. It's going really, really well. Yeah. Again, submissions, they have to be in 18th of December. Don't forget it. This is our chance to have our voice. We have to, it's vital we get these submissions in. The boys saying as well, like girls as well, sorry, we've got female volunteers as well helping us out. And last week we were getting lots of beeps off the cars, we're getting lots of support. Even the train drivers were coming past and honking their horns off us. From what I've heard, when the police turned up, although the police, they said that they thoroughly support our cause, you know, we had to remove the banners from the bridge. But the police as well, I don't think people give the police enough credit for what they have to go through. When a policeman gets accused of domestic violence and he gets a restraining order handed out to him, he loses his gun license, or she loses her gun license. So basically they'll let the police, their boss is left with two choices. They either give them a desk job or they let them go. It destroys them. There's, from what I'm hearing, there's quite a high suicide rate amongst police, and that suicide rate is nearly always the policeman or woman being involved in family court. Yeah, this is why I think the police support us so much as well. They see it firsthand. You know, we're hearing stories about the prisons being full of guys that have breached restraining orders. And like I said, again, a breach of a restraining order could be replying to a text message. It could be sending your kids a message to saying you love them, or checking up to see if they're okay. And it's a breach, and it's just very, very sad, because I think the real victims of domestic violence are going out. You know, they're losing out. Sorry, because these courts are so backlogged. If we could focus our attention on the actual victims, you know, if we could get perjury out of the family court, get perjury out of these restraining orders, start prosecuting people for it, you know, setting the bar and saying, hey, this is not tolerated anymore. Children are getting traumatized in the process. So yeah, again guys, I can't stress enough how much you need to like and share our page, and get these submissions in. And Epstein didn't kill himself. So yeah, get the submissions in. We're here to help if anyone needs help doing it. We're coming up to I think it's our final banner on the footbridge here. Oh, I can see them. Such a good job. You know, well done to the FACRA team, and for all the people that got up early this morning to do this. You know, these people genuinely care about their kids and everyone else's kids. they're getting off their butts and they're getting down and doing it. They're not just talk. This is what FACRA is about. We're actually getting out there and doing something. So well done to the guys. Oh no, this is our second before last sign. So jail time for parental alienators. Now I can see a lot of people having a problem with this one. I see a lot of people having a problem with this one, but it actually needs to happen. You know, it's child abuse. There is no two ways about it. It is 100% child abuse. It has to be tackled. The law is there. It states that, you know, if you lie under oath, in WA has got one of the highest penalties. I think it's 14 years in WA for perjury. They take perjury very, very seriously. Judge Epstein over on the East Coast lied on a speeding fine and got 6 months for a $50 fine and 2 points. He got 6 months in jail for it. It's very important because, as we keep seeing with these domestic violence organisations, in their own words, emotional violence can be far worse than physical violence. So if it is emotional violence and we are saying that this is terrible, you know, and we are saying it's worse than physical violence, if you're walking down the street and you've seen a child being physically abused, everyone would stop and